No, he's here and will be live. I'll add him to the stream when it's queue. You can start over. Good.
Okay, so should I start?
Start. Yeah. Start. We're live.
Good evening, everyone. As the evening sets in and the second day of the hack wraps up, we bring you yet another fun filled and informative session with Synthetix. Hello and good evening to one and all present here. My name is Anubhav, and on behalf of Computer Society of India, VIT Vellore, it is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Mr. Noah Litvin, who is a core coordinator at Synthetix. So let's start about Synthetix. Let me tell you about the company. Synthetix is a new financial primitive enabling the creation of synthetic assets, offering unique derivatives and exposure to real-world assets on the blockchain. At Devspace, by developing any project on the Synthetix platform and deploying it on L2 Optimism, you make yourself eligible to win prizes from the prize pool of 3.75 lakhs. So, let me introduce you to Mr. Noah Litvin. Noah is a designer and a full stack developer who has previously worked with a variety of startups and large tech companies. He was also one of the winners in the recent ETHDenver Hackathon. He will cover information regarding the broader ecosystem around Synthetix and the roadmap for the current version of the protocol and the upcoming V3. Handing it over to Noah.
Hey, yeah, thanks so much for the introduction. Yeah, so I'll dive right in. Cool. So let's see. Yeah, so fundamentally, Synthetix. What is Synthetix? Let's talk about that at a high level. Fundamentally, it incentivizes stakers to provide collateral in the form of SNX tokens to back synths like SUSD. So SUSD or synthetic USD is what we call a stable coin, which means it always is worth $1. Synthetic USD can be exchanged into other synthetic assets like synthetic euros or synthetic Bitcoin. And stakers receive exchange fees plus some SNX rewards on top of that as the incentive for providing this collateral. Basically, the system always needs to make sure that there's more value staked than the value of the synths that are in circulation, that they're backing effectively. The relationship of Synthetix in SUSD is sort of similar to MakerDAO and DAI, if you're familiar with that. But only Synthetix allows traders to exchange SUSD for synths that track other price feeds. So why are synths exciting? Because synths are standard ERC20 tokens. They can be integrated with other DeFi protocols and apps. So anyone can build products that gain exposure to off-chain assets on the Ethereum blockchain. And as with DeFi broadly, transferring and holding these digital assets are inherently censorship resistant. So one way to think about synths is that they're effectively debt issued by stakers. So stakers deposit SNX tokens as collateral, and they effectively receive a loan of SUSD. And then that SUSD can be exchanged into the appropriate amount of the other assets. So we determine the amount to exchange based on price feeds provided by a service called Chainlink. Chainlink uses a network of decentralized oracles to report prices on chain trustlessly. In certain cases, we can also use Uniswap for a price oracle, but we don't need to get into the details on that right here. And so synths are effectively derivatives. And the derivatives market is estimated to be upwards of trillions of dollars. So as DeFi grows, we anticipate the demand for exposure to off-chain assets will continue to grow as well. So we're still early, as they say. So here's some high-level stats around where Synthetix is at today. Currently, there are over 7,000 active stakers, providing over $500 million worth of collateral. Over $120 million of synths are in circulation, and over $10 million of exchange fees have been distributed to stakers so far. So Synthetix actually offers more than just synths, which are also referred to as spot. You can also use the protocol to take a short position on assets. You can take out loans, and also most recently, you can invest in perpetual futures contracts. Synthetix is run by a DAO, or a decentralized autonomous organization, and really it's a collection of DAOs. So each epoch, token holders can elect members to these DAOs. Each epoch lasts, I believe, about a quarter. And so the Spartan Council, for instance, votes on SIPs, or Synthetix Improvement Proposals. The system is modeled after EIPs, the Ethereum Improvement Proposal system. And these involve upgrades to the Synthetix protocol itself, like the actual code that runs the protocol. But anyone can propose an SIP. The Spartan Council also votes on SCCPs, and these dictate configurable values for the protocol instead of changes to the code. There are other DAOs like the Grants and the Ambassadors Council, and they interface more directly with the Synthetix community and the broader DeFi ecosystem. So Synthetix is considered one of the OG DeFi protocols, and it's pioneered quite a few of the technologies and standards that have become commonplace in DeFi over the last few years. For example, the staking rewards contract, which distributes token rewards in continuous time, pro rata, based on the share of tokens that stakers have provided to it. It's considered to be one of the most forked smart contracts ever. Synthetix was also one of the first protocols to launch on Optimism, a layer 2 for Ethereum. And the transition to L2s and adapting to all of the different sort of the multi-chain world, as we say now, is still a very active topic of R&D within Synthetix and DeFi broadly. And as of just a few weeks ago, Synthetix enabled the debt pool synthesis, which relies on an off-chain oracle, like as we would use for receiving price feeds, to report the total value of the staked collateral across all chains to all of the chains. So this way, SNX tokens that are staked on L1 can effectively be used to back synths that are on L2 and vice versa. As far as I know, Synthetix is the first and only protocol to make this happen. If you look at other DeFi protocols and you switch from network to network, they have different amounts of liquidity available there. And whenever they deploy on a new chain, they need to sort of incentivize and bootstrap liquidity for each new deployment. And that's not the case for Synthetix now. So we've got a ton of exciting stuff in the pipeline right now too. At some point, I believe in the next week, we should roll out support for more atomic swaps. So previously, Synthetix has used a system called fee reclamation as a way to effectively protect stakers from front runners. Atomic swaps allow exchanges to be completed and settled in a single transaction. So currently, this is available between SUSD and a select set of synths, but soon we'll allow more synths to be exchanged atomically, and you won't need to use SUSD as an intermediary for those swaps. We're also continuously assessing new assets to add to the platform as synths and for new futures markets. So I believe it was just earlier this week that we added gold and silver to the protocol. And we've got version 3 of Synthetix in the works. This is going to be a complete rewrite of the protocol from the ground up. We're building a new proxy architecture to allow for safer and smoother protocol updates, a robust system for fully on-chain governance, and improvements for stakers, traders, and developers across all aspects of the protocol by sort of starting from scratch and getting the foundation right. So zooming back out a little bit, Synthetix is really DeFi infrastructure. There are all sorts of apps and protocols building on top of Synthetix as its sort of platform. So to call out just a few, there's Quenta and Decentrix, which are user interfaces that allow traders to interact with the Synthetix protocol. They're similar in design to DYDX and Binance, but because they're backed on Synthetix, they're completely permissionless. Lyra and Thales are options trading protocols that are built on top of Synthetix, and they have their own interfaces for end users. You can check those out as well. And then recently, Polynomial started building structured products on top of Lyra. And this involves vaults where you can deposit and gain exposure to automated covered call strategies. It's sort of similar to Ribbon. You've seen that before. It's cool stuff. So what can you build on top of Synthetix? There's all sorts of opportunities. The surface area is pretty large. So one way I might suggest approaching this would be to consider different user groups. And at least the way that I think about this is that you have traders, you have stakers, and then you have developers. So for traders, you could think about building tools and user interfaces that involve varying degrees of automation. So you could go sort of totally automated and try to build a trading bot that deploys some sort of strategy that you've come up with, or a new like trading app or user interface along the lines of something like Quenta or Decentrix. And maybe there's sort of something in between that, right? Where it's like there's still some like trader interaction, but certain pieces of it are automated. You could think about integrating external data sources from Synthetix as well, and think about, yeah, sort of unique user experiences that you might be able to develop for traders. And yeah, so if you're going down that route, I would start by taking a look at the exchanger contract. That might be a good place to start in the Synthetix code base. For stakers, you might want to look at building tools that provide information about the debt pool composition. You could look at building something to remind users around claiming their weekly SNX rewards. You could look at something to help manage the liquidations process or warn users if they might be liquidated. And from a code standpoint, you might want to look at the Synthetix subgraphs as a place to start. That's the Synthetix integrates with the graph to basically create a GraphQL endpoint for querying data related to the protocol. So that could be a good starting point. And then if you're building for developers, maybe surfacing more of how the protocol works and creating tools or libraries or abstractions for building on top of Synthetix could be interesting. So for example, even just creating a dashboard that clearly displays all of the configurable settings for the protocol, and which synths are available and which markets and things are available, and also sort of separating out what's available on L1 versus L2 could be super interesting. You could look at the system settings contract in the code base as a place to start for that. Cool. Yeah, so thanks for listening. If any of this is exciting for you, definitely join the Synthetix Discord and get involved with the community, and you can reach out to me there. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for the fantastic and thought-provoking keynote, Noah. And we'll be answering a few questions. So if any of you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the live chat. Okay. Meanwhile, Noah, I had some questions. Like we talked about stakers, right? So what are the risks involved for the stakers?
Yeah, so as a staker, as I mentioned before, you're providing this collateral that backs synths. And so what you need to do is essentially maintain your C ratio, which means if the debt that you're responsible for starts increasing in value, you need to start adding more collateral effectively. Otherwise, you run the risk of liquidation. So if you're participating in the system, you always need to make sure that basically you're providing enough collateral. And if you sort of cut it too close and the value of your collateral drops, the system can, as a disincentive, can take it away from you effectively as a liquidation. So that's the main thing that you need to look out for.
And as a community, you guys are actually really something which we look up to. So how did you guys start? Like, I guess you have been a part of Synthetix for a long time. So how did you start as a community?
Oh, I can't really speak to that. I've only been working with Synthetix since around November. So
Okay.
yeah,
So
I can't speak to the early days, but definitely if you get in the Discord, there's plenty of people that can.
yeah, I joined your Discord community. It was actually really interactive. I had a good experience over there. So, one more question which I had, what are the benefits of adding liquidation? Like, I think you guys balance it out. So, what are the added benefits of adding liquidation to the system?
What's the benefit of liquidation? Yeah, so I mean, again, like a crucial function of Synthetix is to make sure that there is enough collateral to back the synths, and so like the purpose of liquidation is to make sure that as individuals are coming close to no longer effectively providing their share, that there's sort of a punitive a function that can then take their collateral and take their debt and distribute it so that the rest of the system is able to maintain that system-wide collateralization ratio and keep it above 100%.
Okay, so I guess you guys maintain an escrow account or some sort also for liquidation, and I guess I'm not very well versed in that area, but I guess you have an escrow account. So will escrowed and SNX that's been staked available for liquidation if it comes to that?
Yeah. Well, we're actually changing how the liquidation system works. You can look at SIP 148, which will be rolled out soon, probably later this month. And yes, I believe in the current system, there's no escrow of liquidated funds, but I think the plan is to create to pull
Yeah,
escrow before it gets distributed. There's sort of two different ways at a high level that you can approach liquidations. I think I might get a little too technical for this talk, but
yeah,
there are a lot of
yeah,
different ways you can design.
yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
What are the advantages? Arjun Khanna is asking, what are the advantages of the company being decentralized?
Advantages. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's sort of almost a philosophical question, I would say. I mean, I think that a big benefit of Synthetix being decentralized is the degree of community involvement. Makes it more robust and sort of censorship resistant, right? Like the more decentralized it is, the less that one single person or one particular like system failure can sort of wreck the entire protocol. So yeah, I mean, I guess sort of at a high level, the benefit of decentralization is more sort of robustness.
Okay, so we have Priyanshu Kumar with us. He's asking, what should be the roadmap to take up most use of Synthetix?
Well, sorry, what was that? What's the roadmap?
Yeah, what's the roadmap to take the most use of Synthetix? It's a
That takes
question by Priyanshu Kumar.
the most use of Synthetix?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So, I mean, right now, the priority is to sort of shift everyone over to working on version 3. So there's still like different, like as I mentioned, like more atomic swaps, and there's I think work on changing the like circuit breaker mechanism. Like there are a variety of things that are being improved on the current version. But like the main, I would say, like overall priority is to try to get those tied off so that we can build a more robust version from the ground up.
What's your what's your take on the hostile takeover of Twitter by Elon Musk recently? It's a question by Arjun Khanna.
I don't have strong opinions about that. I don't know. Eccentric billionaires can be entertaining, but I don't know. I feel like I spend too much time on Twitter, so if he ruins it, that's probably for the best.
By the way, Noah, are you in Denver? Where are
I'm
you
in
currently?
New York.
Oh, you're in New York.
Mhm.
Okay, so a question by the participants we have in our hackathon. Uh, they're asking about the deployment on L2 optimism and the resources which can help participants integrate it to the products.
What resources are available for hackathon participants to build on optimism? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's the exact question. If you rephrase it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, it's sort of the same resources are available for the protocol broadly. I mean, I would look over the documentation. And yeah, I mean, a benefit of optimism is that it is sort of, it compiles very similarly to the normal EVM. So in general, unless you're doing things that are like very sophisticated, however you would normally develop for Ethereum, you should be able to just develop and deploy on Optimism. The Synthetix protocol there are certain things that are available on L2 that aren't on L1 and vice versa. So that's something to look out for. But generally speaking, I wouldn't say you need to think about it too much differently if you're thinking about working on Optimism.
Okay, so we have Arka Priya Chakravarti, and she is asking, how can one leverage Synthetix while trading cryptocurrencies?
By creating cryptocurrencies?
While trading cryptocurrencies.
Creative cryptocurrencies?
By trading cryptocurrencies. How can one leverage Synthetix while trading cryptocurrencies? It's a question by Arka Priya Chakravarti.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can deploy your own ERC20s, which are effectively cryptocurrencies on Ethereum. So, if I'm understanding the question correctly, you could presumably deploy your own ERC20s that then interact with the Synthetix protocol. So you could sort of have create a cryptocurrency that then is sort of a derivative of a synthetic asset. So yeah, that'd be one approach.
Well, that's about it in the chat. If anyone has any other questions, do ask them. I guess there are no other questions. Okay. Also, Noah, since I told you in your intro, I told the audience in your introduction that you're a designer and a full stack developer. So, how about you? If you're comfortable telling us about your journey till here?
Yeah. I mean, I got started doing software development just like on the side. Like I didn't go to, I went to school for like classics and philosophy. So it was just sort of just sort of for fun. And then I would pick up side gigs doing programming. I got involved with some startups, and then I became increasingly interested in doing design work. So I actually went back to school for design and started doing more of that. And yeah, so I've sort of like drifted sort of all over the stack. I mean, most recently I was working on a fintech startup outside of crypto, a more like traditional finance fintech startup. And yeah, so around like about a year
Well,
ago.
that
I sort
actually
of like
is
into crypto. Yeah.
that actually is really something I look up to when I grow up. Maybe when I complete my university. Also, you recently won an ETHDenver Hackathon. Okay, and since we are conducting a hackathon at the moment, also,
Mhm.
so what's your take? How do you when you participate in a hackathon? Okay. So, what's your first thing, or how will you tell the participants who are new to hackathon to how to approach the problem statements, or how to get along with the hackathon?
Yeah, I mean, I guess one like high level thing I would recommend with a hackathon is like don't bite off more than you can chew. Like if you're only going to be working on something for a few days, don't like I think there's an expression like don't try to boil the ocean, right? So if you can just pick something small, like as I mentioned, like for Synthetix, like having a dashboard where you can just see what all the system settings are easily, and like what synths are available on which networks and all of that in like a really clean, simple way. Like that's the sort of thing you could probably build in a few days. Building, a like structured product, like unless you're like already really deep in the finance world, like you're probably not going to be able to pull that off in a couple of days. So yeah, I would just say like be really smart about how you're scoping things. And yeah.
Also, a question from my side. Like, I am deeply interested in finance. I follow cryptocurrencies, the movement, and the stock market, Indian market, New York Stock Exchange, and all of that. Okay, so and I guess you are also in design. Okay, you participate in hackathon, a bit tech too, and also you are uh, taking a keen part in finance. Okay, so maybe I just look up to you, or we can say that since I have just known you for last 20 minutes, but yeah, you have been an inspiration to me. You can okay, so
Oh,
I'll
thanks. It's kind of you.
so anything you would like to tell me, like how to approach things or how to go ahead with my life, like something you will. Also, we have a question. How did you thought of integrating stakers and developers by Priyanshu Kumar?
How do I think of integrating stakers? Yeah, I guess like it would be it's if you're thinking about developing tools on the Synthetix protocol, yeah, definitely there are a lot of opportunities, especially with V2, to build tools that make the protocol more sort of understandable and easy to use for stakers. Obviously, we work on an app internally, but there's all sorts of peripheral things that can be built on top of that as well. So yeah, I mean, I guess I would say as a developer, definitely like try staking. There's no minimums, right? I mean, that's sort of a nice thing about DeFi. Like you can just put in a couple bucks to play around with it. So yeah, definitely mess around with it and then think about what you can build from there.
Well, with that question, I guess we come to an end. Okay, so one more question. How will liquidation work practically? It's from Anushka Roy Chaudhary.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I'm hesitant to get into too much detail here, but like, all right. So one way you can think about it is like if the amount of debt that I'm responsible for is like here, I guess, and the amount of collateral I'm responsible for is here, and the amount of debt is sort of sneaking up, or this is like getting a little too close, then we can just sell. Basically, we can sell the collateral and the debt together to someone externally, right? So the reason why you would do this is because the collateral is still worth more than the debt. It's just we're cutting it a little close, so the system is concerned about that. So someone else can come in and basically buy $100 of debt and $110 of collateral. So the incentive is there because it's sort of like a free $10. It ends up being more complicated than this, but that, I think at a high level, that's one good way to think about it.
Yeah, so I guess there is a lot to learn about from here. Also, with this question, we come to an end finally. If you have any other questions related to the company or you anything you want to ask Noah, there's an active Discord community of Synthetix. You can join them. You can visit them on Google. You'll find their blogs and all there too. So you can, if you have a keen want to participate in it, yeah, sure, go ahead, guys. Also, make sure to follow CSI on Twitter and Instagram at CSI-VITU. And also, guys, round two submissions for the hackathon starts at 9. I hope you guys had a good time.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Noah. Thanks for being with us.
Damn, Anubhav.